Good morning, friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on what for you is Monday morning. For me, it's Sunday afternoon. That's why I'm wearing the same shirt I wore in church on Sunday. You'll also see me tomorrow morning wearing this same shirt because I'm pre recording these since I'm going to be traveling this week and I wanted to spend some time with you anyway. So I hope you'll bear with me and that you will follow along as we open our Bibles to Proverbs chapter 30. Now remember, these are the words of Agur. Agur is not Solomon, and he is a wise man that we know nothing about, but he is wise, and we'll see that as we look at what he has to say. His name means brave warrior, it means one who searches, and the idea is that he is searching for the truth, for wisdom. Now, come down to verse 11 and see if this doesn't sound a lot like the age in which we're living today. There's a generation that curses its father and does not bless its mother. There's a generation that is pure in its own eyes, yet is not washed from its filthiness. There's a generation, oh, how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There's a generation whose teeth are like swords, and whose fangs are like knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. Now, it does sound a lot like what we're living in today, but can I tell you a little secret? Give you a little hint. In every generation, you find people who are like this. Now, I just came back from a family ministry conference a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the differences between the generations from the baby boomers to the baby busters to Gen X and millennials and Generation Z and all the different things that are there. And right now, this generation coming up, really they're one generation that sees no need for authority. They don't recognize authority. And we see that what's going on in many of the cities around our nation with the defund the police call and the riots that are taking place. But the truth of the matter is, in every generation, there are people who are just like this. People are people all through the ages, and they have selfish desires and sinful desires, and because of that, they do sinful things. But look at what he's talking about here. Specifically, he says there's a generation that curses its father and does not bless its mother. Now, this is a very serious issue in Solomon's day because they held tightly to the Ten Commandments. And one of those commandments was honor your father and your mother that your days may be long upon this earth. It's the first commandment with promise. And the promise is that if you honor your parents, you respect them, you treat them right, then you're going to live a long life. Now, there's a practical reason for that. You see, as parents were raising their children, if the children disrespected them, rebelled against them, called them a name, they could take that child to the city gate to where the elders were seated, tell them what had happened, and they could have that child stoned to death. Now, I doubt that happened very often because I don't think most parents would respond that way. But they took the respect of their parents very seriously. But still, even with that threat hanging over their head, there were those who rejected that need to honor their parents. Generation that's pure in its own eyes, but they're not washed from their filthiness. That sounds like mankind of all ages, but it just seems like today it's more and more like that because we live in a society that says that if it feels good, do it. If it's right for you, then it's right. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. And so we've come to that point in our culture once again, as it says in the book of Judges, that everyone does what's right in their own eyes, regardless of what the Word of God says. And they think it's okay. That's what Agur is talking about here. Then he says there's a generation with lofty eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. And the idea here is that they've got big plans and big ideas, grand schemes that are going, and they're always looking with their eyes wide open into the future, into the distance, because they never find satisfaction in the moment. They're always seeking. Isn't that a miserable thought, to think that you could never be satisfied? Then he talks about the generation whose teeth are like swords and whose fangs are like knives. Listen, all you have to do is read the news, turn on the news, and you see this. The names that people are calling and the accusations that are made. Their teeth are like swords, their fangs are like knives. They're tearing each other apart over silly things. And the reason is to devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among men. Listen, it's a shame when we get to that point where all we care about is ourselves. We want more for ourselves, and we see it all around us today. And so I want to encourage you today, as you think about this world in which we live, we need to focus on what God has called us to be, the salt and the light. We need to focus on what God has called us to do, and that is to love our neighbors as ourselves. And we need to truly show that love and try to guide people of all generations to recognize the hope that is within us because of Jesus Christ who lives. Find somebody today, invest your life into them, and show them what it means to be a child of God. I hope you have a great day today. God bless.